All right, everybody. This is God. The time that we had in the green room. I wish we recorded that because it was some really cool stuff. But I'm really excited. Thank you to the Indiescape Network for allowing me to host this Q&A that I've been dying to do for a little while now. But we got quite a few members of this cast. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in December, I did do a Q&A with the cast of Black Roses, and it went awesome. I became addicted to it. So what I decided to do was, let's do some more John Fasano films. It's a personal obsession of mine. Is I love Zombie Nightmare, Rock and Roll Nightmare, The Jitters, and obviously Black Roses. But man, the thrill of like finding people, bringing them together, trying to get them to get interested in doing a Q&A, and then reuniting these people. A lot of these guys and girls, they haven't even seen each other in years. And that was what really got me excited about doing this one, because after the Black Roses one, where I was told that some of these people hadn't even seen each other since rap, 30 plus years ago, that was just a great feeling, and a lot of them have stayed connected since. So I'm hoping to do the same thing with this one. It's a personal favorite of mine, a very overlooked film. I know that we showed. We've given links to, the YouTube version of The Jitters, which is technically a VHS rip, but still you get the point. It's just a fun. I think it's called it's like a Zhang Shi style, Chinese hopping vampire. It's just a blast, regardless. So I'm going to bring people in one by one. We're going to just have some fun tonight, and let's start with this guy.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
Frank.
I'm Frank Dietz, and I played Rat, the most inept gang member on the face of the earth in The Jitters.
I love it. Hey, Paul.
Hi, how are you? My name is Paul Mitchnick, and I was the director of photography on the movie.
Oh, hi. I'm Jesse D'Angelo, and I played Boy. Did my character have a name? I was in it for a second, I think. So there you go. Hi.
That's so funny. Actually, I think you did, dude. I think it was Billy or something like that. No, what was it? That's funny. No, you did Bobby. It was Bobby. You actually did have a name. Yeah.
I guess they had to call me something. John was like, "Oh, we got to throw the kid in there." Bobby. Sure, we'll call him Bobby.
Holy shit. That's my favorite line in the movie, man.
Well, I'll tell you about that one.
Hey, I'm John Quincy Lee, and I played Tony Yang Jr.
That's right. Hey, man. Yeah. Oh, God. I love this, dude. This is so exciting.
And I am Steve Wang. I designed and built the transformation of the Chan character into the Gyeongshi vampire you see in the film.
Awesome.
Oh, hi. I'm Jonathan Goldstein. I played Joey. I flew through a plate glass window.
You broke some stuff. You flew through a window.
Monkeyland.
Monkeyland, that's right. So, and this is Sal. Sal, so introduce yourself and let us know who you played.
Hey, sorry I'm late. Sal Viviano. I played Michael Derrick. This is a sausage fest. What happened here? Where's the women?
Long story. So I'll get right into that, actually.
No, I'm so sorry I'm late, Tim. Nice to see you.
No, don't be. You came right on time. You and Jonathan, you guys came right on time. So basically, we had a few other guests, and Cindy's not feeling so hot. She was... She had a massive role in this film, obviously, because she was not only the line producer, the production manager, the whole 9 yards. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more she did than was even on IMDb. But she also had a role. She played Mona in the shop with her glass face. That I think Mr. Goldstein smashed, right?
Yeah.
So she can't make it. I hope you feel better. And the other one is Lisa Foster. So Lisa Foster is the real name of the nice young lady who played Gina.
Who played my girlfriend, yeah.
Yeah, which, damn,
lucky guy, right? No.
I wish we had her on, and she's, I guess she has laryngitis. I hope that she feels better. And but either way, we got a lot of awesome people here tonight. and we're going to start with Frank. Obviously, like, let us know. We're going to go around the table with the same question. So let us know how you got involved in the project, and if you have any, like, if there's any stories that stand out that you'd like to share about the project.
Sure. Well, this was my fourth movie working with John and Cindy, and John used to refer to me as his Ward Bond, who was a character actor that John Ford put in every one of his movies. So I was John's lucky charm, I guess. And so it was like, if John was making a movie, he was going to give me a role. It was just given, and I was happy to do whatever role he decided to give me. In the movie, it happened to Rat. As I said before, the most inept gang member on the face of the earth. Although none of the gang members in this gang were particularly good gang members. They're all pretty bad. So, but one of the things that I really loved about making this one was that it gave me the opportunity to do a lot of stunt work. And we worked with a really great stunt coordinator named Rick Forsyth, who's like one of the top stunt guys in Canada, certainly. And I know he's worked down here as well. But we got to do all kinds of great fight scenes, and I got to be hooked up on a harness and raised up, up to the ceiling so that Steve Wang's monster could spin me. Oh, there you go. Could spin me around and then throw me across the room, which was a blast. Not very comfortable. That was my first time and last time doing that, but it's not comfortable at all. But it was fun, so that's all that really mattered. I had a lot of fun. I mean, we were all playing stupid, which was always fun to do. Just like the Nine Stooges or whatever. And I loved all the people I was working with. So it was a great pleasure, without a doubt. Oh yeah, that's the other thing about that I love about this movie. So that's Gina or Lisa in real life. In this movie, I get beaten up by a little kid.
You got beaten up by
a
everybody.
girl, an old man, and then finally John Quincy Lee takes me out at the end. By the end of the movie, I've got 2 black eyes and bandages across my nose, and so it was really fun getting beaten up in every scene by every imaginable character. So, not getting a knife fight with James Hong, that was an honor.
That's great.
I know. Should I tell you this now? I got a very quick story about James Hong. So, we had a lot of fun on the set, and James I had a camera with me all the time, and James kept saying, Frank, take pictures, of the set, because you'll look back on it and you'll like really be happy that you took these pictures, right? So I did what he said, took a lot of pictures. So then flash forward, like, I don't know, 15 years maybe, I hadn't seen Jimmy, in any at all during that time, and he was at an autograph show here in LA. So I went to go see him. I brought a picture of me and him that we took on the set, one of these kind of shots, right? And I said, "Hi, Jimmy, it's Frank Dietz. We worked together on the Jitters." And I showed him the picture, and he just went, "Oh, that movie's terrible." It was like, "Oh, okay, well, do you remember, you told me to take a lot of pictures and everything like that?" And he stares at the photo for a few minutes, and he just goes, "I don't remember you at all." Okay. But you know what? But he signed the picture for me, and I've run into him several times since then, and he's actually very nice, and he's very funny. He's kind of a really crazy character in real life, so it's always fun to see him at conventions. Yeah, that's one of the pictures I took of Andrea and Jimmy.
So real quick too, because you were talking about how much fun you guys had on set. Before we get to Paul, Frank, like, was this, because you're obviously close with John? You were very close with John. You've known him a long time. Was this meant to be a comedy, or
Yes.
was this?
Oh, without a doubt. The intention was that these Mr. Vampire movies are really popular. In Japan.
They're huge in
Um,
Hong Kong, too.
Yeah, they made like 6 of them, I think, right? And so the idea was to make an American version of this, these characters, and I guess it was a good idea. Didn't work out to be as successful as I think we hoped.
That's what a lot of people don't understand, is that so a lot of the reviews online, or even the written reviews or video reviews, a lot of these people are comparing it to Big Trouble in Little China, The Golden Child, etc. That's not really what it was about. It was more of a Mr. Vampire thing. It was more of the it was more based off of that. Instead, it was meant to be a comedy, not like Big Trouble in Little China, where everybody's playing it straight. You know what I mean?
Oh, without a doubt. Just look at the gang members. They're all buffoons. It was really intended to be. John wanted to have fun with it.
Yeah, cool.
And a lot of
if you're going to make a movie about hopping vampires who breathe through, who have stop them by putting a parchment on their forehead or whatever.
Yeah.
Playing that straight's a little tough. You're better off going the comedy angle, I think.
and a lot of the dialogue was tongue in cheek.
Oh, 100%.
If the dialogue's tongue in cheek, then of course it's a comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Paul, let us know how you got involved in the project, and if you have any specific memories that stand out.
I have lots of nice memories. I got involved in the project because I took over for the director of photography on Black Roses. So there was a director. I had an interview with John before Black Roses, and the film was given to somebody else as the director of photography. These are low-budget films, and this other guy could supply the equipment. So after about a week or a week and a half, John called me up and said, "We're firing this guy. Can you start?" So I took over on Black Roses and finished Black Roses. And at this point, I don't remember how much of it I shot, but it was over half. So John and I got along, and he said, "I've got this other film to do about hopping vampires." So, okay, sure. It sounds pretty interesting. And then of course I met all the people and saw a couple of hopping vampire films, and we looked at films that were based on this, and my memories of the film I have a few nice memories. One of them was when the film got really silly, and I said this before in the green room, you just saw the work that Steve Wang did on the film, and that there was some first class things in it. So no matter how silly it got, you knew that, you weren't shooting puppets, or you weren't shooting airplanes that were hanging on strings. So that there was a lot of craft involved in the film. And the other thing that I remember about the film, certainly now, is that it would be impossible to make that film today.
Mm-hmm.
And you could never
make
it. Well, we shot in Toronto, we shot wherever we wanted. We had, most of the time, we had no permission to shoot wherever we were shooting. We had no permission to do the things that we were doing. And there was a lot of inventiveness in terms of how we did stunts. There's a number of shots. I watched the film last week because it's been a long time. There are a number of shots of people flying through the air. We had no money. We had no wires. We had no this. So what we did is we put people on boxes, on dollies, and we dollied along with them as they were dollying along. So the background was blurring in the background, and it actually looked like people were flying through the air. So there was a great amount of fun and inventiveness on how to be clever and cute with no money. And for me, that was a success of the film. is that some of the shit that we did actually worked.
Yeah.
You know, and we did it for no money, and it was all about, well, this sounds good, it should work, and so it did. So I had a lot of fun with that, you know, and I'm proud of the work that we did, and people had fun. People had fun, and everybody knew that it was a hopping vampire film, so nobody had any pretense about anything more than that. And whether it's a comedy or not, I'm not sure, but it was certainly camp.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what made it cool, was the fact that it was so camp. And Steve's monsters were just like fabulous to watch. So that was at some level the reward for me.
Cool. Let's go with Jesse. Jesse, so tell us, how did you get involved in this film?
Yeah, I went through an exhaustive audition process.
Where did they find you?
John wanted to see every kid in SAG went and read for this part. I think it came down to me and Corey Feldman, and somehow I just edged him out, you know, and I got the part. It was just hard work. What can I say? For anybody who doesn't know, and anybody watching this podcast
should know.
They should know by now.
They wanted a method actor. That's why.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Basically, the similar story to Frank. Like I'm one of those guys John would just put in all of his movies, except unlike Frank, he didn't do it because of any kind of acting skill or whatnot. It was because I was John's stepson, and he and my mother had to go to Canada for several months to shoot a movie, and they had to bring me along. So they're like, well, if we're bringing the kid along, give him a few lines. So that's how I wind up in all of these movies for like 1 minute of screen time, and I get like 1 or 2 lines. It's just like, placate Jesse, give him a line or two, put him in a movie, and that's what happened. So, but
Did they ever pay you?
Having fun on all of them. So it was great.
You get paid?
You got dinner.
I'm sure I got paid, but it was like $50 or something like that. Like I had no I was 10 years old. I had
wait, you got paid more than I did?
50?
What the hell?
50 for the whole movie, you know.
That's more than Jonathan and I got.
Probably, yeah. But no, it was fun. I had a great time.
You keep doing the same thing. Oh, 1 second. There we go.
Sorry, my computer just like went haywire and crashed for some reason. So
sorry about that. Yeah, so not a problem. We'll get to you just a second. But real quick, Jesse, do you have any like specific memories of that day, or those, how many days it took to shoot that scene with you? But you have any memories from that at all? I mean, I know you were young and stuff, but like, what any of the cool memories from that set?
The scene where I'm like dressed up as a ninja, or the scene where
I'm sorry, yeah.
Well, so this you actually brought it up earlier, the bit where I scream "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
right. That's kind of the moment people, if anybody ever asked me about this movie, it's like that moment. So, what happened with that moment is in the scene. You know, I see one of these vampires and I scream, holy shit! And me and this other boy run away. So we shoot that scene whenever it was, and then several months later, it's now time to do the ADR. And I forget where we were doing. I think it was in Canada somewhere, or maybe it was back in New York. I don't remember. I was 10. Forgive me. But we're doing the ADR, and John says, okay, Jesse, we need you to come to the ADR booth to re-record some of these lines because, you know, the audio didn't come out so great, and now you've aged a few months and your voice has actually changed. So we're going to have to like redo that line, and we're going to have to tweak the pitch. I mean, but we have to tweak it so you sound a little bit younger. So, you know, when I went into ADR it and I screamed the line like, holy shit. Yeah. John apparently thought, well, Jesse sounds like he's aged in these last few months. Let's turn the audio so he sounds. So the end result is I sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yes.
So when I run away, holy
Yes.
And I'm watching, and I'm going like, really? Did you have to do that? Did my voice sound that much different? You had to. Okay, so that's why that happened. You know, so I'm sure I have other stories and memories from that movie which we can get to, but yeah, that's that one. You know.
We'll go around. We'll get back to that. So, John, what? How did you get involved in the project to begin with, and then also is there any memories that stand out? I guess you'd say.
Oh, me?
Yeah, John. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
I auditioned. I was doing an off-Broadway show at the time. When I auditioned, I was with the Pan Asian Repertory Theater Company in New York, and I just remember auditioning. And originally, they cast me as the guy that becomes the monster. And then my agent called me and said, they want you for the other role. So it was cool. And but meanwhile, they had put me in a cast already.
Really?
I got to keep the teeth that they made for me. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. And after that, I went back to the theater, and it was a writer's strike right after filming this movie. There was a writer's strike, and
Oh yeah.
there's just no work in New York for actors. And I was dating a girl that just signed a 3-year deal on a soap. So I was like, hate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have any specific memories that pop out like from the set?
I just, you guys were just such a wonderful group of people to work with, guys. It's some of the happiest moments. I just had a great, fantastic time. I will never forget the gag I did on Frank when we first moved into the hotel. I pressed all the buttons on the elevator. His room was way above mine.
Oh shit!
And in the middle of the night, I think like 4 a.m, he called me in the middle of the night to wake me up to get back at me. Yeah, it was just
That's
I wasn't very familiar with Toronto. I've been there. I worked there before, but I never got to wander around. And I asked Frank. I said, Frank, it's so cold. Aren't these girls by the fast food joint? Aren't they cold? Are they all waiting for the bus at this time of night? And I was I was really naive. And then Frank goes, no, they look normal up here. You know.
Of course, you asked Frank. Yeah,
right. I'm the expert, right?
Jonathan, I knew from New York. We worked briefly together at some restaurant, Bar Louis. Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Wow! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was after, though, wasn't it?
No, it was before.
No way.
Before that, and then when you showed up on set because you got hired last.
Yeah.
I said, I know that guy. I can't get rid of him. Yeah.
So, all right. So, Jonathan, how did you get involved? They say so you were the last one's cast, but how did you get involved?
I think that they had cast somebody. I don't know. Frank would probably know more about that.
I remember who
work out. But like anybody who knew John, especially back then, John Fasano, he got a call and he told me I was going to do a movie. And he just said, okay, I want you to do this. And, and I was very serious back then. I just, I had studied acting and I was like, so I think he told me it was a serious movie. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to go do some acting. And then just ended up in this, what did you say? Frank, playing stupid. We were all just sort of playing stupid. I don't think that was much of a stretch for any of us back then.
Not really, no.
Yeah. And I thought, there's that picture, that Batman T-shirt. I don't know, we could get away with that nowadays. Yeah, that was my T-shirt. I was so proud.
That was your T-shirt. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
but
you
yeah, John, huh?
You still have the T-shirt?
Oh no.
Okay.
No, that I think that disintegrated. I mean, literally, I wore the hell out of that. Yeah,
I sold mine on eBay.
But it was great. I mean, it was super fun. I was just, I was so happy to be traveling and going. It was my first movie, and it was my first sort of real sort of professional experience. And it was really wonderful to like see and be on a set when I'd done like little tiny things here and there, but mostly a lot of theater. So that was really incredible. And looking back, it was really great. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. No
Little
wonder,
baby Johnny.
look at that. That's amazing. But it was really, I mean, like to see like, because I knew John personally as a friend, so to walk in and see it like really happening and all the stuff that Steve did and the amazing, like it was real. And, I remember, Frank, you took me on, I think we went to the set when one of the changes was happening with the one of the monsters that you made, Steve, and watching it, it was like, it was like the skin was bubbling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And to like really be there and see it was sort of transformative for me in a way of like understanding just sort of the magic behind films. What film magic really was. When, I sort of intellectually knew before, but to see it up front and to see people having a good time doing their work, even though, it was sort of a pressure cooker at times, it was great. And it did start for me personally, a long line of not being allowed to do stunts. So I really wanted to like go through the window. I thought that'd be fucking cool.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, no, you're not doing that. I don't remember who did it. I didn't do the actual thing. And then I can't tell you how many shows I've been on where it's like, can I do it?
But you got to smash a lot of shit, though. Like, you got to, like, break a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Like in the shop when we broke everything and we came in and we were such hooligans. Which is funny, a guy like me playing a hooligan, it's like, I'm just a big doofus. So it was really fun. It was a good time. Yeah.
Cool. All right, thanks.
Yeah,
Jonathan.
so it's just like instead of being a hooligan, I'm more like the hooligan's parole officer. It's much more likely in real life.
Oh, and here's another thing I do remember, John. I think I owe you like $20 or $100 or something like that. I don't remember why. I think I owe
the
you money.
Shakers. You gave it back to me at one. I went to one of your. This guy's amazing, by the way.
You blew it,
The
man.
Shakers.
You just could have made $20 easy.
Oh no, it's all good.
And
I had a great time at the show.
that was really lovely. I think I was in so much trouble, and at the time, whatever it was, $100, it was so much money to me then.
Mm-hmm.
And you like saved me somehow. I don't remember what it was, but you totally saved my ass. And also, I remember thinking just how effing classy Sal was.
Mm.
You were just you were kind of like you just were smooth, man. And you were very gracious, and I remember that very well. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I remember.
All right, well, that's a perfect lead in there. So Sal, how did you get involved in the project, and how did you stay so classy after all these years?
Well, first, yeah,
There he is. Yeah.
yeah. Well, first of all, let me say again how great it is to see all of you guys, and like John was saying, the memories from the set, it was so much fun, and Jonathan, thank you for the compliment, and Paul, I can't tell you how happy I am to see you. I think you're the only one that I haven't literally seen, not just on the screen, but especially on the screen too. And I'm so happy to see you. You shot pretty much the entire history of my film career.
Wow.
And so I owe you a lot.
Well, thank you. I remember that you gave me as a present, I don't have it anymore, but you gave me a New York Mets world champion baseball cap.
Ah, good.
Right.
I didn't remember that, but I'm glad.
And I had it till it wore out, like for 10 years or 15 years.
Well, if they win this year, I'll get you another one.
Terrific.
I'm still singing for them after 38 years or whatever it's been.
Okay.
Like
Okay. Well, I look forward to another cap then.
yeah, good. So Paul and I, Tim, to answer your question, Paul and I and Frank and Jesse did Black Roses together for John, and you know what you were saying earlier, Paul, about making things happen on a low budget. I thought you and John were just brilliant at that, at finding an idea and just making it happen, make it look expensive, make it look real. I mean, I was amazed day after day. You know, we all came pretty much from the theater. John and Cindy liked to cast people from the theater, I think, with theatrical backgrounds. And so to see something on a film set that was so completely realized and told the story unto itself in the frame, before dialogue, before action, was amazing. And the way you frame shots, Paul, I felt so lucky to learn from you how to start to be a film actor. I mean, I've done some things since, but not many. So you and John are really responsible for that. And I want to say, Cindy, I know you're watching, and we miss you. We wish you were here. We love you. None of us would be here were it not for you. And
especially me.
Yes, especially the littlest actor. Who was always, you were on set a lot too, just watching other things happen, which was always fun. Jesse was just like a sponge. He still is a sponge. Just obviously an observer who writes what he knows because he's absorbed it all. So coming from Black Roses, and then John and Cindy asking me to do this movie, and again with Frank and Jesse and a bunch of guys, I was Paul. I was so really, really happy, and I got the time off from the show that I was doing, and so it worked out really well. And I thought Marilyn was just amazing.
Sweet.
Yeah, there she is. I'll admit I was completely smitten with her. And,
I think we were all smitten.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever said the word smitten before, but there you go.
How classy. Yes.
But yeah, she was lovely and so much fun, and we just bonded.
Very sweet.
Yeah, very.
Yeah,
sweet.
I hope she, again with her and also Lisa and Andrea and anybody else who was involved. I hope they at least get to see this, because I did hope they were all going to be here. Obviously, if someone's not feeling well, that's one thing, but some people I just couldn't even get through to, and even half the gang members. I mean, there was no leads at all on where these people went off to, and then some of them had like names that were so common. There was like 80,000 people with the same name, and there's no way I was going to be able to find them. Yeah. But anyway, long story short, I definitely hope they get to see this.
I hope so too. And you guys may have mentioned before I got on here that James just got a star on the Walk of Fame, right?
Yeah, no, he did. Yes,
May. That was amazing. He's 93. The guy, he's still sharp as ever. My God.
Yeah.
You wouldn't remember any of us though, Frank.
Yes.
If we
that's what he was talking about.
I already told that story.
You'd be like, "Who are you? I work with you."
Oh man,
he was so fun to watch because every take was inventive and he had something going on. And I mean, he had the idea of the script, but then he would invent all these other things. All those little bits were just delicious and delightful, and really raised the comedy level of the movie. And we, John Fasano led from a place of, such a big heart, loved actors, loved artists, loved just creating on the fly and making something happen. God, I miss it. What an amazing mind and great storyteller. And he would get an idea and tell you about it, what his idea was. Hey, let's try it. And so often they were just great ideas. Paul, I wanted to ask you something. So I don't know if the rest of you guys remember this or not, but when we shot, there was a scene that we shot, Paul, in the apartment that I was living in, I think. And it was like it was an apartment.
It was behind the Red Lion Inn on the penthouse.
What
It was shot
was
up
it?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved in there after they shot. Yeah, it was
Right.
really cool.
Well,
Yeah.
Marilyn and I, with John, Cindy, and Paul, and I think maybe a script supervisor, maybe it was Felicia, I don't remember now, shot a bedroom scene. Paul, do you remember this?
Nope.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I watched the film.
No, it's not in there. It didn't make
and
it.
there were a few things
Was
that
was it a special private film?
It was a
For your eyes? What are
Not
you
as I
talking
recall.
about?
Was there film in the camera?
Well, that's what I was told. So there was a nude scene.
no, I don't. I remember every nude scene I've ever shot. So, but I don't remember that.
You shot.
I
at least
remember there was a scene. There was a scene in that apartment where the two of you were having dinner, and
right.
you both walked out onto the balcony.
Correct. That made
That's
the
what I
film.
remember.
And then also after that, there's a kiss, I think, on the balcony, and then it morphed into the bedroom, and then a scene, physical. I don't remember a lot of dialogue, and then morning or end of activity,
Yep.
walking to the bathroom. It was nude. So
Well, clearly, Sal, you made quite an impression.
I must have been really bad, John.
Well, I'm surprised. Like, why didn't it make the movie?
It was I saw the shot. It was in an early cut, and it was really at least what they had in that. It was just Marilyn's butt,
Yeah.
basically her walking from the bed to the bathroom or something.
Yeah, no, it was Sal's butt too.
Was it?
Thank you, Quincy. I'd
Oh
see.
yeah,
I guess I wasn't looking at Sal's butt.
Sal has a memorable butt.
So
Well,
Jesse,
Yeah, Sal.
I never saw any of that, and I figured, that was back in an age when people used to ask me to take my clothes off. They don't do that anymore. I did hair. I did, I did a lot of things where I had to be nude. Not anymore. But so I just wondered if that exists, and I was going to ask your mom tonight, Jesse, like, what happened to that scene? I've never
I
asked.
remember seeing that in an early cut where it's like you're getting out of bed and you stand up and there's your ass, and I don't remember why it was cut, but it was cut. So, but it happened. It existed.
It did.
So there you go.
So, Paul, like I said,
wasn't
you've
a
shot
joke.
my entire film career, including my nude film career.
Yeah, my new claim to fame, I guess.
Oh no, hardly. Hardly.
So Steve, so how did you get involved with the project, and what good memories do you have, if any stand out?
Yeah, I just had come back from Italy on this the last of the Empire pictures, a movie called The Arena. And
Yeah,
I
I love Empire, dude. Yeah,
that was the last Empire movie, and I just come back, and then I got a call from this guy named John Fasano out of nowhere. I didn't even know how he got my number, but he was like, "Oh, I'm doing a film. I'm a big fan of yours," and I didn't think it was possible for me to have a fan back then, because I just barely started my career. But he sounded really, really enthusiastic, and he wanted to meet with me about doing effects for his new film. So I went to the American Film Market and met with him. And next thing you know, I think we spent hours and hours talking. Like right away, we just got along. We just hit it off. He was a huge Monster fan, and so was I.
Yeah.
The fact that he was making, a Mr. Vampire, an American version of Mr. Vampire, which I was already a big fan of. So I was like, yeah, I'm totally on board, And he says, but there's one little caveat, and that's the budget. Because we only have like, $12,000 for you to do all the effects in this movie. And, like nowadays you think $12,000, that's like nothing, right?
Airfare.
Yeah. But back in '88, $12,000 was still nothing. But John's enthusiasm really just won me over. And I just thought, and he says, but the one thing I can offer you is that you can do whatever you want. Here's what the scene is. You can design the creature however you want it, just anything you want to do. So I thought, sold. I'm on board, you know. So I went off and I built this whole thing, and he hadn't even seen it until I brought it on set. And when I got to Toronto, set it up and stuff. And one thing that I remember being really cool was, aside from the fact that it was just such a great family atmosphere, like everybody got along great. It felt really warm. Everybody was so welcoming, like the cast and the crew. It was just really awesome. When people ask me sometimes, like, "Oh, what do you remember about working on like some of the films?" I always bring up Jitter, like, Jitters is like one of the ones I really enjoyed because it was such a great atmosphere and everybody just got along so wonderfully. But I got on set, and what was really cool was that John already knew how he wanted to shoot everything, which was really refreshing because it just made my job easier. I just showed him what each thing was going to do, and he just said, "Okay, maybe we'll cut here, and then we'll set this shot and that shot." And when he put the whole thing together, it worked wonderfully. So everything just went without a hitch, and so that was great. As far as funny story, this kind of caught me by surprise. I had an assistant named Joe Podner. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago.
Oh.
Great guy. He played the creature in the suit, but he was also one of my main guys in helping me build the creature. Yeah. And he talked me into letting him play the monster. And I said, "Oh, do you know how to play monsters? Are you good pantomime?" He says, "Oh yeah, I've done it all. I'm really good at it." I was like, "Okay." And I don't know why it never occurred to me to actually like audition him or just say, "Hey, move around, put a mask on, move around in it." I just trusted him. He got in the suit. I put him in the whole makeup. We're on set, and then there's a scene where he had to turn around, and then he had to stalk. I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Andrea or somebody.
Andrea Roth, yeah.
Andrea.
He had to stalk her, and he did the typical thing of, all of a sudden you forget how to walk. Like you start to instead of walking with, you put your right hand forward, your right foot also went forward, which is really awkward. And he started doing that, and I went, "Wait a minute," and I kind of asked John, "Can you stop for 1 second?" And I pulled him aside. I said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "How did you just forget how to walk?" So I had to pull him aside. I said, "John, can you just give us 5 minutes?" And I had to walk him through and say, "No, make sure you do this and you do that and whatever." And then he did great after that, but it was just one of those funny moments where it just caught me completely off guard. I was just like, "You idiot! Why didn't you audition him or let alone rehearse with him, right?" Which is normally what you should do anyway. But in the end, he did great. I mean, he had a really nice presence, and it worked out wonderfully. So,
actually, what's great about that scene is that while the hopping vampires are somewhat comedic, despite being vampires, right in the middle of the movie is that scene where the inner monster comes out, and he's actually really scary, which is what the movie needed right at that point. To remind everybody, oh yeah, these are monsters. They aren't just, this.
Yeah, and then John, like I said, John and I think we were just kind of kindred spirits. Like we after that movie, we just stayed good friends forever. And in fact, even when I was show running a TV show back in 2008, the 2 seasons of a show that I was doing, a live action kids action show, I brought John in as one of my directors as well, and we worked together on that, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, and I really thing I really miss about John the most is just every so often he'll call me out of nowhere, and we'll be on the phone for 3 hours talking about monster stuff. That was just the most awesome thing. Yeah, and and I really do miss that part about John.
So next, I'm going to read one of the only interviews that I could find. It was actually fairly recent, I guess. Not recent, but within the last 10 years, I guess, or I don't know if it was 2012, maybe 2009. I don't know, somewhere around there, but there was no date on it. But anyways, from Fangoria, and it's real quick. I'm going to just fly right through it. But it has some of what you guys have already mentioned, but it also puts a little bit more perspective on the actual, funding of the film and how much money they actually had. You know what I mean? And how I personally love, I know Steve mentioned Empire. Empire Pictures and John Fasano films are very similar to me, where this high concept, you going into the movies, the budgets are low. They're not $20 million pictures. But I always see past that as a fan of movies. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love Empire Pictures so much, and that's why I love John Fasano's films, is that you could just tell that they actually gave a shit about the project. And everybody on the project, you can kind of tell that they actually gave a shit. It wasn't like, oh, how much do I get paid to be here? Do I really give a shit about the? No, it was like these projects had care. You could see that in the performances. You can see that in the set dressing. Sometimes you can see it in just random things. And anyway, and especially the direction of these films. And so yeah, I'm going to fly through this real quick, and then I'm going to get everybody's opinion. If you have any last minute things you want to say about your experience on the film, we'll go around one more time, and then after that, we will go and finish it off with, hey, what are you guys up to? What have you done since? Type of deal, okay? And if you want to promote anything going forward, okay? So, according to this article, it was done by Fangoria. It said, what led you to make a movie about hopping vampires? And John said, well, there are a bunch of vampire movies from Hong Kong, like 20 or 30, about Jiangxi, I think. I probably butchered the shit out of that, but the hopping vampires. They're comedies, and they're very funny. So a company called Gaga Communications heard about Black Roses, and they said they'd give me $750,000 to make the first English language hopping vampire movie. The first thing I said was that, well, that's not enough money because there would be so much wire work involved. So I had the foresight to visit with a coordinator in Toronto who said he could do all of that stuff, but he couldn't do it for that money. They had this script by Sonoko Kondo and Jeff McKay that was a haunted house story with vampires, and it took place in Maryland. I had just done Black Roses, which had a lot of characters, for $450,000. So for $750,000, I thought I could take $200,000 out for post and do it as sort of an epic with opposing gangs, lots of extras, and that was my first mistake. My ex-wife and I rewrote the script, this West Side Story thing where he's white, she's Chinese, in the midst of this war between vampires and gang members. But what happened was, and this is not a slam on Toronto because we were non-union with our cast, we had too many characters to get quality actors all the way down. A lot of the gang members were just acceptable. There were a few that were just bad. They were really hard-pressed to fill all the Asian-speaking parts we needed. So Fangoria says, so you went ahead with it anyway? And John said, well, Sonoko said she had this money. So we wrote the script, scouted locations in Toronto's Chinatown. We made a deal with the Chinese restaurants on one block to leave their lights on the night that we were going to shoot. Sal and Marilyn's coming up the street. We paid them all in advance, and the night we showed up, they were all closed with their lights off. So we had to put our own lights in the street so we could see. I wanted to have a nice long tracking shot of them coming up the sidewalk, and that fell flat. So Fangoria says, well, you must have been really frustrated at that point. And he says, I was. But here's the thing about Jitters. There's no post audio. When we got to the end of the shoot, it turned out they didn't have $750,000. They only had $500,000. We had spent almost all of it to make the movie. There are no original sound effects. When I edited the movie, I would take a great fight scene from Commando and cut my fight scenes so punches lined up with those in Commando, because Joel Silver had the best sound editing. I gave the sound guy the edited footage, which was full of punches and chairs smashing and whatever, but he didn't have any sound effects. So he had this button on this keyboard that went shh every time someone would punch somebody, and it kept making the same sound. So you have to understand that the Jitters had been finished. If it had been finished the way I wanted it, I might have stayed in New York and gone to Canada for two or three or more movies. I was so disappointed with the post for the Jitters. I took a copy of Black Roses, drove to LA, saying I wasn't going to make low-budget movies out of New York anymore. Paul Mitchnick, who also shot Black Roses, went crazy because some of his best shots in the Jitters with the worst soundtrack behind them. I was so disappointed that it drove me out of New York, and it saved my life because I came to Hollywood and have lived there ever since. It also says, this is almost finished, by the way. So Fangoria says, despite all those trials and tribulations, Steve Wang did a fine job on the creature effects. And Fasano said, I'd seen an article on Steve and Fangoria. He and his partner, Matt Rose, won some makeup contest, and they were like 18-year-old kids. Steve has a character design aesthetic that's amazing, and he and Matt were working for Stan Winston at the time. They had done the Predator, then they did Gillman for the Monster Squad. So I went to Steve and said, I can give you X amount of money, which was nothing really. But for the amount he made the Chan suit for, from the waist up, and the Chan changeo head that splits open, He did all this work for a very small amount, and he did it because I told him that I would give him the lead effects credit. So lastly, it says, so how did Jitters finally find its way to, I'm not going to get into that. It's just basically talking about the DVD release, which I didn't even realize there was one. But they apparently there's a nice commentary with John and Marilyn on there as well. But anyway, so does that, is that all true? Does that make sense to you guys? Let's just go around the table, and let's start with Steve, since he was mentioning that real quick, and just go back around the horn. So Steve, any thoughts on that article?
The budget was true, because I didn't mention about the $500,000 budget, but I was aware of what the budget was, because he did get shortchanged on that. Once, I guess, I'm not sure when at that point, but I remember he did tell me that it was $500,000. And I also know Sonoko Sakai, who was the Gaga studio representative as well, and she had also confirmed that back then, how they were, very tight on the budget and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as I know, everything that John said sounds true to me. Everything he told me was pretty much what I already just said. So
yeah.
There's one thing I have to add. The post-production sound is not entirely true, because, like I said before, we did that ADR with me doing that one line. So I'm sure he had some very kind of, cheap setup that he went to, where he was able to record some lines and some things, but it wasn't obviously what he would have liked. So yeah, the sound definitely suffered, but we did a little ADR. So
no, I drove with John back up to Toronto to record to ADR some stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for perspective, I mean, back in those days, all the post-production was done on film still. So you can just do like today now, you can do post-production on your computer.
Yeah.
And you can edit the entire movie on your laptop. Yeah. So back then, everything was so much more challenging. And having done a few films myself too, when you don't have the budget, it's very disappointing for sure if you can't get done something that you can't do yourself, unfortunately.
Well, it's one thing to not have a budget. It's another thing to think you have a budget.
Yeah.
And you find out you don't have a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the difference between that and like Black Roses say, which Paul, you have some reference on as well. He said that they must have known that they had like 400,000 or something like that. That's the figure that he threw out.
I mean, and I don't
know it ahead of time.
The policy, if you got $50, you spend $50. If you think you have $75, then you're going to spend $75. If you find out your $75 is only $50, then you don't get dessert. Basically. Yeah. And so that's what John was faced with, and thinking that he was going to have dessert to finish the film, and he didn't have. And there were some issues about the music having to be redone. I mean, he cut the film in Toronto. And so I would come down and visit like once a week or something to see what they were doing, and he would show me the cut and tell me what I thought. And there was issues with the music, and there was issues with this and that. And I don't know where the money came from to change that or fix that, but that was always a big concern at the end of it. And I had forgotten about paying the Chinese merchants to leave their lights on. So it's like, okay, if you guys leave all your lights on, we don't have to light. I don't have to light, or I have to light half as much or something. And then we showed up, and it was just like they all turned them off. They took the $50 and turned them off because they had the 50. It's like they were paid, so we don't have to do anything. But there were a number of things. There are a number of things that happen on low budget films that are like that all the time. Having done a few of them, and it's just like, oh well, just you think of an alternative and you get it done and move forward. And
that's what's great. So that at the end of the day,
the big dolly shot ended up being a long lens shot where they walk into a close-up.
Yeah. Okay. So again, at the end of the day, that's what I love about John's films, and this is what I love about other high concept, low budget films, that he delivered. I mean, you guys all delivered at the end of the day. The film got made. The film got released. And it's still. There's a lot of people out there, believe it or not, that still enjoy it, even today, So that's something to be proud of, all of you, really. You're part of something that I mean, we're talking about it today. This is 2022, and we're talking about the Jitters in a positive light. You know what I mean?
Unbelievable.
It's kind of cool. So any last minute stories, you guys? Any burning stories that you just, hey, this is your last shot right here. Let's talk about this. Is there any cool stuff that we missed from set or before after hours? Or
say one thing about John that the people
Sure.
kind of alluded to before and made reference to.
Sure.
John was a filmmaker who loved telling stories and loved the idea of making films. And it didn't matter what the issue was, whether it was budget, whether it was this or that, you were captivated by his enthusiasm and his passion for making films and telling stories. And whatever happened in his life, there was always this underlying feeling of here's a guy who gave a shit about making films, and it didn't matter what the subject was, he was always going to put something into the making of that film that was his and personal and 100%. And, you know, that's something to be admired. And that's why he got the people he got to work on the films that he did, is because everybody knew he cared about what he was doing.
Yeah.
I've got something. I have to say something to each one of you guys here, because I have memories of you all, and this is coming from the lens of it's coming from the lens of a 10-year-old. So keep that in mind, right? I'll try to keep it quick because there's a few of you. Frank, I remember. You know, I've worked with Frank before. There was Rock Roll Nightmare, Black Roses, Zombie Nightmare. Frank always played like a nice, wholesome kind of guy. Even Black Roses, he turned evil, but he was started off as now all of a sudden he's rad. So it was just like completely different Frank than I was ever used to, and I thought it was like hilarious. Paul, I just remember you being like the calmest, most unflappable, friendliest guy. Like there could be a war zone with explosions going off next to you, and you just be like, okay, you know, just unflappable, right? Steve, guys, you have to understand, Steve is like the coolest person in the world. I have to like, as a 10-year-old kid and a big Monster fan, I was on the set watching that transformation scene, and I'm like, is there something I can do to help? Right? And Steve actually let me help a little bit. There was like a bit where there was like foam rubber skin that has to like rip apart, and Steve gave me a cup with fake blood and a little brush, and he says, here, you can paint blood on the edges of the skin. And he let me do it, and it was like
cool.
That's the coolest thing in the world, and I'll never forget that, man. I love you, man. John Quincy Lee, I remember thinking you were just the coolest, baddest mofo. You have to remember this came after Big Trouble in Little China, so I was a James Hong fan, and you reminded me of Dennis Dunn a little bit, and because like being with James Hong, but then also the Bruce Lee thing. You did a few things where you're like, you know, you channeled that, and you were like kind of cool. You had a swagger and charisma, and I just thought like that guy's cool. There's that.
You're my favorite ninja in the movie.
And Sal, I remember everyone says the same thing. Classy, cool guy. Impossible to not like Sal. You know, everybody loves Sal, and I just remember like, what a night and day difference between Black Roses and this, right? And then John Goldstein, I remember being scared of you because like I didn't know you outside of this, and we didn't like talk or anything outside of like our scenes. So for me, you just like were that bully. And you did such a good job. I was like, this guy's kind of scary. He's bullying my mom because that scene. So I was like, yeah, man. You may feel like a goober who is not like really a thug or whatever, but for me, I was like, oh, this guy's a thug. He's kind of scary. So there you go. I thought I had a great time. That movie was the first time I stayed up all night. When they were shooting the big scene in the alley with the fight scene and whatnot, like the crew was in this like warehouse, and they just put me there, and they're like, Jesse, play with some cards, occupy yourself. So I had a table, and me and the other kid, the Chinese boy, were making card castles, right? You build some, build another level up, they fall down. You try to build it up. And it seemed like we were doing that for like 20 minutes. But then at a certain point, I stood up, I stretched, I walked outside, and the sun was rising. And I was like, holy shit, I just stayed up all night?
Yeah.
And I was 10 years old. I never stayed up all night before. It was like this mind-boggling experience. So yeah, those are some of my memories of the Jitters, and remember it fondly, and I remember you guys fondly, and I'm very happy to get to touch base with you all.
Same
Thanks,
here.
Jesse.
Hey, I want to add, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but do you guys remember the opening animation sequence?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And at the end, when John's name came up, it was so big that you couldn't fit the entire name on the screen at once.
Right.
Okay, so I did remember correctly, right? Because I went up to John afterwards. When I first saw it, I laughed so loud. I just thought this is so freaking amazing because John was such a huge personality, right? He was larger than life. So much so that his name will not fit on the screen at the same time. And I went up to him. I remember going up to him and I said, dude, this is your legacy. This is your bragging right now. You can say, I'm such a big personality. You can put my name on the entire screen. I thought that was just the most amazing thing. So, yeah. That's good.
That always gets a good laugh, that moment.
Yeah.
The memory that I remember most vividly is just that every day, you come to set and or get a call before, and there'd be a little meeting with John and Cindy, and just like almost like in a repertory kind of an idea, but as though you were in a repertory company, and they gave you your marching orders for the day. We're going to change this. Here's the new script page. We got this, and with such energy and verve, just it was exciting to come to work every day for that reason. Aside from all the wonderful people who were funny and great pals, and going to dim sum with James Hong a few times, which was fun. And the other guy I remember very vividly, along with all of you guys, was Handy. Remember Handy, who played?
Oh gosh, I didn't know how he was able to do that at his age.
I had no idea how he did that. He was game for anything.
I think he was having a good time. I think he had fun.
It really seemed like he did, and he was just like, John would say, "Handy, and yes, what can I do?" Just like so eager to please, and he was just he was quite a character and just adorable. And I mean, the guy worked the hopping alone. I mean, at 4 a.m, at 2 a.m, hopping around the city. I mean, amazing. But I just loved how John and Cindy worked together, and how they made us all feel like we were so responsible for the end product, and made us feel in on it every day, which was really a gift.
Isn't it funny, Sal, that you and I did 2 movies back to back, and even though I don't think we were ever in a scene together where we interacted specifically,
right, yeah.
I feel like I was in every scene with you in both movies for some reason.
Yeah.
Look at the babies.
Oh my God.
That shirt. Band scene together in Black Roses. You were in the open band scene. Not dialogue.
But we didn't under like 5 hours of makeup too. So that shirt, the picture you just showed, Tim, is the shirt I wore through the entire movie. And if you look at it, it's a caricature of a rat, which I drew right onto that shirt. And yeah, I use these like special fabric inks, and they had to take that shirt every single night and wash it and give it back to me in the morning.
This is only one?
Because there was only one of them. Yeah.
The jacket in that picture, I don't have it. I gave it to Jonathan. But that jacket is actually the jacket that I did my Black Roses audition in.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
The only reason I remember that is because it's on the DVD. They have a piece of my audition.
they do?
They hired me anyway. I don't know why, but look, that was quite a look.
Well, you should see the other guys. Yeah. I mean, you did great. You did great.
Yeah, I remember. I used to give John a hard time because I used to hate wearing the yellow outfit with the shingles on my head. And I told you, can we please shoot this in the middle of the night when the streets are empty? I was like, we're in Chinatown. They're just gonna mock me. They're just gonna laugh at me, please. And John, be professional. Be professional. Get that.
Oh, that sounds like John. With all the talk about how low budget the movies were, I know that certainly they were. I don't know. It never felt like it was low budget to me, because we had professional people working. We had a DP like Paul Mitchnick. We had actual, like, very talented crew members. All the lighting guys, the grips, everybody. They were doing their job like any other movie I've ever worked on. So and actors who were terrific. And so it didn't. I mean, Rock and Roll Nightmare, yes, that was a different story, because that was micro budget. But for Black Roses and for the Jitters, I felt great about it. I felt we're making a real movie here. This is wonderful. So I didn't really feel that. The one thing I wanted to say to Paul Mitchnick is that, Paul, you made me feel really, really good one night when we were shooting. We were shooting very late. We were shooting on the street, so that the street had been wet down and all that, and there was a scene with these two hookers that Rat and two other guys were teasing or whatever, and you needed me to go from my gaze go from one side of the camera to the other, and you said that I did it great, which meant a lot to me. And because I remember you saying that the only other person that you ever saw who could cross the lens like that was Oliver Reed. And I went, oh my God, like, that is about the biggest compliment in the world that you could possibly give me as an actor, because I loved Oliver Reed. So I thank you for that. I don't know if I ever thanked you for it back then, but that really meant a lot to me.
That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, of course, it didn't feel like a low budget film, because it's sort of like poor people don't know they're poor until they see people who aren't. So if you're working on a low budget film and you're working with people who are also working on a low budget film, as long as you're not walking across the street to see people shoot The Godfather, you're just on a film. So, and I think that's what everybody felt. Everybody it's like, I've been on films that were independent and smaller, and sometimes people don't show up, and sometimes this happens, and sometimes that happens, and sometimes really weird stuff, wrong stuff happens. But nothing wrong happened on our film, and nobody got hurt. We did all those stunts, and we had people going through plate glass windows. Nobody got hurt. We had lunch. We got paid. So that's okay, right? So then it's like any other movie, right?
Yeah.
I got my $50.
We all got our $50.
So John or Jonathan, you have anything that you want to, any other stories you remember or you want to add before we go around and ask?
I just had an amazing time with you guys. It's a month. I was up there almost a month, and I really treasured those memories. I really embraced those. What a wonderful time. Yeah. The only thing that bugged me was I knew there was a writer's strike coming. So I said, oh man, after this movie, it's like, unless I do theater, there's no work in New York. And it was true. It was true. I ended up in the restaurant biz. Yeah. There was this it really stopped everything for me. I went on to do some stuff, but You know, I had some momentum before this project, and I thought, okay, bigger and better things, and you know, and but you know, life. That's life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Jonathan,
What?
you have anything you want? Any other stories you want to
Oh,
share? Or?
Jonathan's got an amazing career after.
Oh, well, yeah, it's been good. I mean, but stories particularly about the Jitters.
Yeah.
I mean, really, just what we've all been talking about. I mean, you know, a lot of it's a blur to me. I'll be honest, because you know, I barely remember what happened 3 weeks ago.
No,
But
yeah,
but it really just was a warm feeling, you know. And listen to everybody talk. Like I remember being places, and the sort of the imagery of like, you know, I had spent my whole life saying I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to do movies, and here I am finally doing it because my childhood buddy gave me a break, and a kid that I grew up with said, you know, called me up and said, hey, I know you want to do this, come on up.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that, you know, that's really lucky. You know, it takes, and the thing about show business, I mean, I think we all can attest to it, you know, talent, who cares? It really, a lot of it is just being prepared, having the luck, and when the luck happens, being prepared for it. You know,
I think it's a little different than luck. I think it's good fortune.
Yeah, sure. I'll call it good
There's
fortune.
a difference between good fortune and luck. So it's good.
And you know, and the fact that, you know, John was this like huge personality. And he was, and frankly, guys, I mean, and Frank can attest to this too. When he was a teenager, when we were kids, it wasn't that much smaller. I mean, he was, and not just, I don't mean just his physical size, but his presence. I mean, that guy walked into a room, you freaking knew. I mean, and he had this way of carrying himself and talking that just sort of drew you in. And it, you know, it's people like that, you know, great storytellers. You know, he was a great storyteller, and the fact that, you know, I got to sort of latch on to that, and I had the good fortune of him saying, "Hey, come on up and do this." A lot of ways that really prepared me for a lot of things that I didn't know I needed preparing for. You know, and I'll tell you, I was having girlfriend trouble at the time, so it was like. It was a very weird. I remember that actually. As you guys were talking about hookers in Toronto, not that but I was like, wait a second. That what was going on with me right then? And it was like, oh yeah. So I had this really weird experience of like, I'm having girlfriend trouble. I think she even came up to visit and ruined it. No, I'm kidding. But it was. So it was this weird. It was a weird time. I was like, it was for me. It was really between a childhood and adulthood, and saying I wanted to be an actor and actually being an actor. And that's that was an intersection for me personally. I don't know how freaking interesting that is to anybody else, but you know, that was pretty amazing to look back on that and go, oh, that all happened right then and there. Holy crap. So
we got
really
paid to do something we love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the first time it happened, but for me, it wasn't the first time, and it wasn't a lot, but it still was like this sort of justification finding that, okay, maybe I'm on the right track here. And,
So what we're going to do now, and we'll start with you, Jonathan, since we're, you know, since you're already talking, we'll just say, hey, so what have you done like recently, or what do you have coming up, or how do people, I mean, if you want people to follow you on social media, you can mention your social media accounts, whatever. And this will go around the room too. But yeah, anything of note that you're proud of that you've done since the Jitters that you want to mention, or that people may or may not know about you?
You want to start with me?
Yeah, you go. Yeah, so we're talking to you.
I like long walks on the beach.
Yeah, me too.
I got the social media thing because I'm hip and now, and I have an Instagram account, I think, and it's just my name, Jonathan L. Goldstein, one word, and what else? what else do I do? Yeah, I was on a TV show for a long time that was a big deal for a minute called Drake and Josh.
Yeah.
So I'm a recovering TV dad, and which was really interesting. And I'm still auditioning. I forgot about this tonight because I got slammed. I'm like sitting around for 2 weeks with nothing to do, and then I got like 4 auditions, all in like a day. And some of them, one is 20 pages long, the other one was like 6 pages long. One I haven't even read yet because I'm like waiting. But interestingly, one is for a show that Felicia Fasano is casting. So
oh wow,
Really?
Felicia's John's sister is still in business and is a very very fancy and wonderful casting director.
Yeah, and worked on a lot of great shows, cast a lot of great shows,
and she's just dynamite. And one thing about her that she loves actors, and I think that's one of the things that I mean, she doesn't like me, but she loves actors. I'm kidding. She's great, but it's an interesting thing. That's some. She came up, working with John and Cindy, and kept on working and staying in the business, by hook or by crook. But yeah, so that's it. So yeah, with the Drake and Josh thing and tons of TV shows. Oh, I just directed a short film that's supposed to be a horror film, and I just saw, like, about 3 hours ago, I looked at the first assembly of it. So
Cool.
Yay!
It's called Rock Blocker, and oddly enough, it's about, well, they're technically succubi, but sort of vampires.
Nice.
They're not hopping though. Which,
well, you might regret that.
Yeah, I think I made a mistake, but
post-production's not done yet, so
Yeah.
you still have time.
Go back and reshoot.
Hopping, put it in there.
Or I could just move how technologies are going to just jostle them. Anyway.
By the way, folks, Jonathan in our house is known as Uncle Jonathan to my 2 daughters.
Oh,
he is a part of our family.
They're and lovely kids, and you don't deserve your wife. She's awesome.
Yeah, I know that. Don't need to be reminded. Thank you.
Well said.
Are you coming on Sunday? Not to make this all about me and Frank, but are you coming on Sunday?
Yes.
Good. Enough said.
Okay.
Cool.
As you were.
As you were.
Let's go with Sal next. Sal, so what have you done since Jitters? I mean, obviously, we talked about this in the Black Roses. So how do people follow you on social media, if you want people to follow you at all? Anyway, it's all up to you.
So after the Jitters, I went back and back into Broadway shows. Did a bunch of Broadway shows. Most of my career has been concerts with symphony orchestras around the world, and still do that a lot. And thankfully, I think my proudest achievement is my 2 sons, Alessandro, the older, who's 25, and Joey, 22, the younger. Joey.
Did you name him after my character?
I did. And he wears a Batman shirt every day.
Oh, nice callback. Excellent.
You know what? I don't think they've ever seen the Jitters. I have to trot that out. I didn't know it was out on DVD. I'll have to find it.
It's a hard find.
They're the older Alessandro is an actor and doing fine, and Joey works for the MLB network. Just graduated from Syracuse.
Cool.
My wife was also an actress.
She was awesome and beautiful. I saw her.
Thanks, John. She
Broadway.
was. Yeah. Played Carole King's mother in Beautiful for the whole 6-year run on Broadway. And
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's in development for a couple new things. I'm still doing concerts. I've done almost 80 albums. So get out there and buy an album.
Yeah.
I did a two disc set for Sinatra's 100th birthday called Perfectly Frank. I don't sound or look like him, but I've with a lot of orchestras. It's all recorded live with about there's I think 15 different orchestras from around the world on that album. It's a 2-album set. And I've got another album I'm about to go in the studio and do. I can't tell you what that is yet.
But if they follow you on social media, then maybe they'll get to learn.
Yeah, and I I'm really happy to see you guys all, and I thank God for having met John and Cindy, and what it's meant. You know, so many times, and I think I might have said this on Black Roses too. So many times I'll come out from doing, I'm in a tuxedo, a bow tie, the whole deal, and you know, I'm singing standards and you know, Gershwin or you know something like that, or Broadway stuff, and I'll come out and there'll be a kid dressed in black like a teenager, and they go, "You dreaming?"
Yeah.
And so every once in a while, there's somebody who'll say, "Wait, remember a movie called The Jitters?" And I said, "Yeah, you remember The Jitters? We love The Jitters. We love The Jitters because of the people." And I do have to say too, John really did not like the music behind that movie because John was so into music and he had such great taste in music. And I'm sorry if I should plan whoever did the music, but the music you guys have, the pictures and the scenes that you created, Paul and John and Cindy, just John storyboarded it all too. He was such a great artist, and some the portions. And I just watched the movie, Tim, after you let us know we're going to do this again, and I thought, oh, the music doesn't lift the scene like it doesn't support the emotion or the comedy or the drama of the scene sometimes. But I know that he always talked about like maybe wanted to put better music behind it. Yeah. No slam meant anybody, but and Steve, my God, that monster! When I saw that again, when Chan's head opened, just fantastic.
Yeah,
just thrilling, like really thrilling.
People still talk about that, man. I do.
Right in the portion of the movie that we needed to see that. Just great.
Mm-hmm.
Just great.
And practical effects.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
We had no choice. We had no choice back then.
No,
right.
I'd like to see the nude scene. Because I have
we gotta find that. Yeah.
I have a visual memory of Marilyn's butt because I look. But
you could.
She was in Xanadu. She looked amazing. I mean, Marilyn's
beautiful,
stunning.
LaSalle, you know, you could just get up and give us a little bit, you know, one of your cheeks right now.
Oh shit!
Hardly the same. Jonathan, I want to mention, by the way, Drake Bell lived with us for over a month in our apartment. I'm in my New York apartment right now. We have a house on Shelter Island too.
Drake lived with you?
He did for over a month because he and my wife did a musical, a John Denver musical, and Drake played sort of the John Denver character. It wasn't actually supposed to be John.
When the hell was this?
This was about maybe 10 years ago, and my kids were obsessed with your show, and of course with him, because they were just the right age. And so Drake literally, you know, he had a hotel room, and then he came over one night. We were, you know, all hanging out, and he didn't leave for like 10 days.
Yeah. He's a very
it turned into a month.
Don't believe the press, people. He's a
he was great. And then we went to see his band. So he kind of lived with us for like a long. He's a great kid.
I'll probably gonna see him on Monday. I'll tell him.
Please give him my love. He'll remember.
That's so crazy. I can't believe that.
Yeah, and he'll remember Andy and Joey when they were like, you know, little kids. Anyway, more than 10 years ago, I guess.
Mr. Wang. So my producing partner, one of his favorite films of all time is actually Drive, and he's a massive Martin Koskis fan. And I had no idea that you directed that, to be honest with you. So it was news to me. But like, So what have you done since the Jitters? Obviously, I mean, I don't know if we have time, so kind of give us the condensed version of like maybe some highlights there, and then what you got coming up, if you can say anything, and then obviously how to find you on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I've hopped around a little bit, you know, from directing,
hopped
around. Hey, Freudian slip. Just hopped around, you know, from different mediums, and I ended up opening a studio to create, you know, it's an entertainment design and build studio. So it's called the Onyx Forge Studio. And I have an Instagram for that page, and then my Instagram is Steve Wang Creature Creator. But basically, you know, I jump between movies to like live experiential events. Like most recently, we did a thing called the Miami Bowl in Florida, where there was a big crypto convention, and you know the mayor of Miami declared Miami as the capital of crypto. So we were commissioned to build a 16-foot long, like a mechanical robo transformer bowl, in the same pose in as the Wall Street Bowl that was in New York. So it's sort of like the modern version of that as a tribute to that. So that's now a permanent art installation at the Miami-Dade College, and the mayor presented it and unveiled it for the media. So we do that kind of stuff a lot, that are non-film related, and then we still work on films. Most recently we worked on Shazam, the new Shazam 2, where I got to work with Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu and Rachel Zegler.
Oh wow!
We made the armor and the leather parts for their costumes, and that was really, really fun to do. Got to work on a movie called Thunder Force with Jason Bateman. We made these crab arms for him. He plays this character called the Crab, where I guess he was bitten in the testicles by a radioactive crab, and then his arm turned into claws. A fun comedy. And then we did Bill and Ted Face the Music. There's a character called Dennis Caleb McCoy. He's like a robot that just wants to, he just wants to have friends. And but he's actually an assassin, but he fails at that. So he's another comedy character, and we got to design and build his costume and makeup. And so we kind of dabble between films and non-film sort of live experiential type stuff, and for video game companies as well. And so right now we're just, and I also have a high-end collectible company called Elite Creature Collectibles. So when things get a little slow, then we jump on those projects, and we license properties from all the major studios, as well as feature original artwork from different artists that we think are fantastic, and we put out original work as well, and we sell to the public. So that keeps me pretty busy, like all year long.
Hold on a second, Tim. I had to find this bull, and I found the bull.
Yeah, there it is.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's 16 feet long. It weighs about 3,000 pounds.
It's beautiful.
And, it's crazy. We did that in a record time too. Yeah.
Thanks for pulling that up, Joe. Wow, cool, man. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
So yeah, Jesse's got some cool stuff to tell us.
I mean,
Books.
Books now. I acted in
audiobooks.
I worked on movies, but now I'm focusing on books. I'm editing my next one. It should be out in October. It's what I've been doing up till now has been like straight horror stuff, and this one is going to be like a murder mystery thriller kind of thing. No supernatural elements, just like fucked up serial killer detective story kind of thing, and it's going to disturb a lot of people, and that just makes me all kinds of happy inside. Yeah, I'm a typical social media whore: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Follow me, like, share, subscribe. What else are you supposed to say? Yeah, if you're interested in reading horror or thriller fiction, check me out. There you go.
You can find it at Amazon, Audible now, because you got audiobooks, right?
Amazon, Audible. Yeah. I just released a book, an audiobook of my last book was, all my stuff is like really kind of dark and horrific. And so my last book, I was like, I'm going to do a comedy. So instead of a zombie apocalypse, it's a werewolf apocalypse. And it's done completely like batshit crazy comedy style. So I just had to kind of get that out of my system. So that's called Doomsday Dogs, and it came out in May, and just yesterday actually, the audiobook came out. So that's on Audible, and the book I'm finishing now is called Composite, about a composite artist who gets entwined in a murder mystery investigation based on my own experiences doing composite art for some police agencies and helping out in investigations. Except I never chased a serial killer, but I kind of took that and turned it into that story. And just pushing ahead with it, man. Yeah. Doing my best.
Awesome, Jesse. John Quincy Lee. So what have you been up to, man? And what do you got coming up?
Like I said, after the Jitters, I was in and out of doing restaurants, managing restaurants. I toured for a while. Even when you're a theater major, you have to learn everything. So I did a lot of stage managing, tour managing with some recording artists. Cool. And And then I wrote a few. I wrote 3 solo shows,
Cool.
one-man shows, and I did a bunch of shows out there. A theater. Yeah, I was in and out of the theater, but after a while, you get to a certain age, you got to pay the bills on a regular basis. So I do I run restaurants, and I've been very lucky. Frank, it's your fault. I got into photography.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was wondering if you were going to mention that. I mean, not me, but the photography, because I know you
got
do
me into
that.
photography when we're up there in Toronto. And so if you go on johnquincylee.com, you can see some of my work.
Cool.
I've been published a few times in the New York Times. And yeah, I thank you, Frank. I never got to thank you for that, for dropping that seed.
It was my plan all along, John. You know that.
Yeah. I didn't know what 100 film and 400 film was until I met you. Yeah. But yeah. But
Well,
yeah,
now you can tell me again because I don't remember now.
yeah. Well, no. It was I learned a lot because you're always there with the camera, and you gave me a lot of tips on photography, and I really got into it. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
hey guys, once again, thank you, Steve. Man, you're awesome. Yeah, Sal, I had so many great times with you. It was just good times, man. And that $20, I forgive you, Jonathan. Yeah, and yeah.
I'll Venmo you right now, man.
No, Venmo me.
No,
I need that.
You definitely paid me back. It was like after one of you're an amazing talent. He fronts a band, and the Shakers. I had such a good time at your shows. Yeah, and you paid me back after one of the shows. I remember.
Okay, I'll believe it.
Forever to get the money, but no.
Jonathan,
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul.
You did an episode
Nothing but gratitude.
Where you redid your apartment. You made a door out to the. I saw that. I thought, oh, that's fantastic. I love that. By the way.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that offline.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchnick, so yeah, what have you done since the Jitters? Anything like that you want to highlight, or anything you got coming up, or how do people reach you if they want to find you? Either for if they want an amazing DP, or they want I don't know, social media, follow you.
Oh,
he's frozen.
He's frozen.
Oh.
Give him
no.
a second.
Oh,
there we go.
He came back.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, we're back. So
Yes.
I spent about maybe 10 years working on, films like X-Men and things like that as a camera operator.
Awesome.
And then I started shooting again. And I shot a lot of independent films. Most recently, I did something for Giancarlo Esposito called The Show, a film
cool.
he directed, which was about a television game show where poor people compete for money and commit suicide on television.
Wow.
So sadly enough, it wasn't a success because it was just too far out there for people. So I have a tendency that I shoot lots of television movies, but I have a tendency to get involved in interesting independent films. I've done a lot of work in the Middle East and the Far East, more by accident than design, but I shot a movie in Dubai. I shot a project in Sri Lanka. I did some work in India, done some work in Africa. So I've had lots of fun with the travel, and I'm currently shooting television movies, which, you see in the Hallmark Channel or other channels, which are okay. In the past year and a half, I started writing, and they're mostly photographs and words, but there's an e-magazine called Flapper Press, and I've got 6 or 7 articles in Flapper Press, which are my photographs, and some of them are art shit, and some of them are travel stuff, so I'm quite proud of that. And I play bass in a blues band.
Oh,
Right on.
Yeah.
So my life is good. My life is very good.
Yeah.
And I continue to work, and so I'm happy about that.
Awesome, Paul. That's really cool, man.
yeah.
Mr. Frank, how happy that you're so. This is awesome to see you again. And I'm going to see you 2 more times because we're doing 2 more of these, dude.
Oh boy.
We're doing Rock and Roll Nightmare and Zombie Nightmare. I'm telling you. But
Wow.
Can we crash? Can we crash?
So anyway, yeah. So what would you like to share with us that you got coming up, maybe, or anything that you, I don't know, any highlights?
Well, lately, occasionally I still do some. I was a Disney animator for a bunch of years, and occasionally I will still do some animation if 2D animation is needed, meaning hand drawn. But most of the time I write these days. I write movies. I had a movie come out just 2 years ago called I Hate Kids, which is right over my shoulder there, which was a comedy. And I was very proud of that. And then I was writing for Creepshow, the series on Shudder, AMC. And so, yeah, I just it's it's kind of nice to not having to do the hustle all the time at this point in my career. I have a manager who gets me work, so that's nice. I still will just draw for the fun of it. I'll draw monsters. I'll draw Frankenstein and the Wolfman, but I'm always looking to learn something new. So one thing I did do very recently was I animated, and this was not 2D. This was CG. I animated a trailer for a potential movie about a young girl who gets trapped in a land full of dinosaurs and monsters, and it was just a fun sci-fi kind of thing. Something might come of it, might not. Didn't matter, because for me it was all about like learning this program and doing something cool with dinosaurs.
Awesome.
Which obviously I love a lot. You can see the models back there.
So
that's
they can
pretty
find
much
you on social media,
Yeah.
or they can follow you, or
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook just as Frank Dietz, but I think I'm rapidly reaching the 5,000 friend mark. So I don't know how much longer that's going to be up. But on Instagram and Twitter, I am the Frank Dietz, because there was another Frank Dietz. I couldn't just use Frank Dietz.
No shit. No.
Well, he's just Frank Dietz. You were the.
Yeah, you showed him.
Yeah,
I am the Frank
You're
Dietz.
important.
I stole that from Rick Baker, actually. So.
You're gonna steal. You're gonna steal.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
since
true.
this is a commercial, I also teach acting, by the way. So if
Yeah,
anybody
yeah,
wants some
anybody-
acting classes, hit me up.
And how would they hit you up again? Like so
I guess
on
the,
Instagram or
Yeah, or if you can shoot me an email at Johnny's JONNY Johnny's acting practice at iCloud.com. And
Cool.
so I expect to hear from all of you.
yeah. Cool. All none of us viewing live, but yeah. So the cool thing is that this particular thing, and same thing with the Black Roses one. The majority of the people who are going to see this it's after the fact. They're searching for the Jitters. They're searching for the Black Roses or whatever, right? So this will pop up in their searches. This was great, and I think this will get a lot of views just because of the fact that it's not a review. It's just not some snarky film critic or whatever. This is the people from the movie. So this is going to be cool. And it will be available for everybody watching, right? So it will be available on YouTube, on Twitter and Facebook over at the Indiescape Network. So you follow the Indiescape Network, obviously, on social media. They're all over social media, including Instagram. And then, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Before I pulled Joe in, Joe is the producer this evening, my good friend. And I just want to say, guys, like seriously, like thank you so fucking much, like for being here. I'm so honored, like to have met all of you, because I never got to meet John Fasano, and John Fasano as like I want to be. Obviously, I've been trying to be a producer myself. Like I don't really have the the drive or knowledge or anything like that to direct any films, but that's not the point. I want to produce things. That's what my main vision is. But the thing is that the films that stand out to me, the films that I want to create in life, I mean, sure, it'd be fantastic to have $100 million. And actually, no, it wouldn't. That's just 100 million fucking problems. Like, I want to make an awesome movie with awesome people like John did. Like John, what I'm learning from these Q&As and everything is that the people that he surrounded himself with are the people I want to surround myself with, or the type I want to surround myself with good people and projects. I want to make great movies, high concepts, low budgets, etc., etc. And he's been a major inspiration on me, even though I never met him. That's the reason why it's like this is my my way of meeting him through you guys, right? And the same thing with Black Roses. And I plan on doing this 2 more times with John's films. I plan on doing Rock and Roll Nightmare. I've already talked to a couple of the people that aren't here that from Rock and Roll Nightmare to do the one in October sometime. Obviously, we'll figure out dates, stuff like that, and then do Zombie Nightmare in December, and then that's it. You know, that's awesome to me, and it also reunite you guys. And it's just, I look back at this, I look back at the Black Roses one, and just seeing that, you know, dude, you guys haven't, some of you haven't seen each other in ages. You know, this is fantastic. You know, this is great. And anyway, thank you guys so much, and thank you everybody who's tuned in. And
thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Showing up, obviously.
So great.
Thank you.
I appreciate this. So, so Mr. Joe, I'm going to bring you in now and let everybody know what's going on with the network, what's coming up, et cetera, before we take off into the green room.
I would be delighted. Thank you. So for those of you that are just joining us or first joining us, we are the Indie Escape Network, where creatives unite. I am kind of the producer of all the shows on the network, and we have a ton of talent aiming for nightly shows, 7 days a week. Tomorrow, Tim, you're going to be on one of the shows.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting interviewed. Wow.
Yeah, imagine that. So you're going to be on Brandon's show, Industry Outlaws United. So that's going to be a good interview. Can't be any worse than this one. Kidding.
Jesus, Joe.
Well, damn. Didn't expect that. But anyway, you can find us on all the socials: Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Can't they just spell these things out instead of using symbols?
Not how it works.
Not today. No.
Okay. But
you can't read anymore.
But an absolutely amazing panel here this evening. I am personally going to be at Phantasm starting tomorrow in Orlando. Phantasm is a horror convention. I'll be there the 3 days. I'll be representing the Indie Escape. We're also going to be hanging around Harlow's Haunt, which is a new movie coming out in October that was filmed in Central Florida.
Yes. Cool.
So,
awesome.
That's what I got for the
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Joe. So, make sure, again, like, subscribe, share, blah, 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 blah. Follow all across social media so that, you can literally watch this on Twitter and Facebook. The replay will be up there. And please, everybody here tonight, share this with your friends and
Hey, this was absolutely amazing seeing everybody getting together for like the first time in years, I'm assuming. It was just awesome. It
was great to learn more about some of you as well. Like, I didn't really know. I mean, there was some stuff I learned tonight from some of you, which is great. And let's wrap this up and head into the green room, and I'll talk to all you real quick before we officially call it tonight. Okay?
All right.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Dropping everybody down. This was absolutely amazing.
I loved it. So real quick, I guess leave me and you here. All right. So before we go, I want to make sure that everybody knows I'm working on one for Trick or Treat, the 1986 horror film. Not Trick or Treat, Trick or Treat, the good one, the Sammy Kerr one. So we got Skippy and we got 2 of the girls from the 2 of the actresses already confirmed, which we're still reaching out to other people involved in the film, et cetera, and that could take some time. But again, that's not going to be till around Halloween. And I'd also like to get Rock and Roll Nightmare, a Q&A for that as well in October to get that Halloween spirit going before Halloween. And then, we'll do one for Zombie Nightmare in December sometime to kind of encapsulate this. So, because again, like this is, it's been a lot of fun. And again, the most important thing to me was just getting these people together, but also, you know, just talking to people who knew John, because John Fasano is definitely one of my biggest inspirations as a filmmaker. That I really, I love what he pulled off with what he had, and the people he surrounded himself with is very inspirational. Because like a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people, you know, I don't know. It's just funny. You can tell by sifting through movies on Tubi that probably had, you know, more or less money than John had in his films or whatever. And you can just tell that somebody on there, like, just didn't give a shit who was around them, or it must have been some whatever. Long story short is, I love his films. I want to keep his films alive, and this is my way of doing it. Enough said.
There you go.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much, Joe, for letting us do this on your show tonight. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow night on Brandon's show.
Good night, everybody.